Jerry. Thanks to the sponsors and Vertical Event for putting on the conference again this year. It's amazing how well attended given circumstances, so congratulations. We've also got a booth here, so if you're interested to hear more, please drop by the booth after my presentation. We're a copper growth company, so we're one of very few companies on the ASX that have significant copper exposure. So, look, we've been working for a long time to build this position of the company. So we've got some major resources in New South Wales, Cobar, which is the richest polymetallic part of the Lachlan Fold Belt in terms of base metals and precious metals. And we've built a 3,000 kilometre plus land package over the last 12 years. Our resources are significant. We've got around 15 million tonnes which we've put together from scratch over the journey that we've been there. But our priority is very much on copper, and so the Wirlong and Mallee Bull deposits, which constitute around 9 million tonnes at about 2% copper, are our focus. We're very close to the CSA mine, which is in play at the moment, and there was some news on it yesterday that they're down to the final bids on the table, I believe. And our aim is essentially to build a 10-year mine life at sort of 20,000 tonnes per annum copper production or better. We've got fantastic metallurgy, which is a common feature of copper in the Cobar Basin. So CSA's concentrates are renowned for being some of the highest quality in the world, and certainly we're seeing the same things with our mineralogy and concentrate products. And during the year just gone, we've been relentless in drilling out our resources to really get our deposits to a point where we can undertake significant study work. Some of those results we reported recently, but the copper results we've reported over the last year or so have been outstanding on the whole. Certainly that headline number, 58 metres at 5% copper, is a rare report these days. The top three are from Mallee Bull, the next three are from Wirlong, which is our budding copper discovery that is growing as we speak. So company overview, we've got about 400 million shares on issue, or 420 I should say, after around 15 years listed life. So we've kept our issued cap quite tight over the journey. End of December we had just under $6 million cash. Hampton Hill and Associates, who are well regarded as value investors, are our number one shareholder. St Barbara Limited is on our register also, and Paradise Investments also there. Directors with plenty of skin in the game, and we certainly always chip in when we're passing the hat around for rights issues, etc., to the best of our ability. Board of Directors, four-man board, Jim Simpson and myself. Technical, certainly Graham Hardy and Simon Hadfield, terrific stewards with great commercial background over the journey, has served us very well to date. And Jim, mining engineer, so speaks to our aspirations to become a mining company. Copper, look, I won't go on about this for too long because I think most people understand the fundamentals, but in short, we're not replacing what we're consuming in a global sense, and the predictions are we're going to need a lot more than what we're using today over the decades ahead. So it's a metal that's got a great future, and we're heavily exposed to it. So the South Cobar project, as I mentioned, we've got just over 3,000 square kilometres of tenure. We've made essentially 5 discoveries or rediscoveries since we've been there over a sort of a 10, 11 year period. And from beginning, when we started with zero resources, we've built up over 15 million tonnes of resources. And that speaks to obviously the fertility of the rocks that we're looking at and the success rate of our exploration. Combined Wirlong and Mallee Bull resources, as I mentioned, just over 9 million tonnes at 2% copper. And Wirlong and Mallee Bull, we see huge upside in terms of what those deposits can turn into. Certainly Wirlong in the near term. We're very keen to get back into there and grow that resource because we see abundant opportunity. We also have some very strong zinc polymetallic type mineralisation at Southern Nights, around 6 million tonnes there as well. So essentially we've got our foot on some fantastic assets, and they're all within cooee of one another. We also own 2 properties, around 32,000 acres of land in the Cobar Basin. We purchased one just before Christmas, and that settlement's still to happen. But we've got our foot on the two key deposits of Wirlong and Mallee Bull by securing those Western land lease tenures. This is our track record, and they say the trend is your friend when it comes to investing, and certainly our resource growth is showing that starting from zero, and you can see when we arrived in Cobar back in 2010, we've been able to consistently build our resources, and in the process particularly building our copper resources. So we've got about 180,000 tonnes contained copper within our resource base at the moment, within that 15 million tonnes of resources. But we certainly see the opportunity for this chart to keep moving in that direction. The Wirlong and Mallee Bull copper deposits at a resource level look like this. So just under 2.5 million tonnes at Wirlong today at just under 2.5% copper. It is one of Australia's highest grade, if not the highest grade, sort of pure copper deposit that isn't developed already. Obviously CSA up the road runs at around 4% through the mill. Mallee Bull about 2.6% copper equivalent at our last resource with about 6.8 million tonnes and about a 1.8% copper headline number there. Both of those deposits are open in all directions pretty much, and at Wirlong we've been drilling there a lot over the last year, and we've got a large amount of copper intercepts that currently are excluded from our mineral resource estimate, so we see plenty of upside. So we believe our deposits are analogous to CSA, there's no question. They're Cobar style systems, hydrothermal breccia, very pure chalcopyrite mineralogy, but you tend to see these sorts of, I guess, signatures to these deposits, subvertical in nature, very similar structural settings in our deposits and certainly CSA, multiple stacked and usually subparallel lenses, and the grade of our deposits is certainly comparable also to what CSA started life as at around 2 to 3%. CSA initially took about 50 years to get about 200 metres, 200 to 300 metres below surface. In the 1950s and 60s they started some exploration drilling and discovered hidden lodes that really has propelled the mine to where it is today, and it's consistently in the top 5 to 10 sort of high-grade copper mines in the world. And it was in the Australian yesterday that apparently a couple of well-known West Australian company, or one West Australian, one South Australian company, Oz and IGO, are in the final run to try to secure that asset. So we look forward to seeing the outcome, but they're certainly talking about $1 billion sort of plus for that asset, and it makes us wonder what ours are worth, to be honest. We think ours have every opportunity to turn into those sorts of deposits in the future. One of the great things, as I mentioned, about working in this part of the world is metallurgy, and particularly our copper deposits. They are amongst the best in the world. I was talking to our metallurgist yesterday, and he said it's pretty much as good as you get. We produce ultra sweet concentrates, really, the products, the test work that we've done to date. So we see that we should be able to achieve plus 95% recoveries to plus 32% copper cons. So that's what the smelters want, very few impurities, if any, and we can get there simply and easily. It wants to float readily, and both deposits are like that. Mallee Bull has a hanging wall load that's more pyritic, and the recoveries on that are slightly lower, but overall that project still delivers greater than 90% recoveries to around 30% copper con. The similarities in a structural sense, when we've reviewed our data and compared it to what's known about CSA, we see strong similarities, and the easiest place to look to see them for yourself is to just go into MinView in New South Wales system and look up the magnetic data, and you can see the same trends. So essentially you've got these basement tapping north-south structures. They're going deep and they're bringing up the hydrothermal fluids, and then you've got these cross-cutting structures northwest, southeast that essentially control the emplacement of high-grade mineralisation. and we see very strong similarities at both Mallee Bull and Wirlong to that structural setting that's at CSA. Wirlong, as I mentioned, 2.5 million tonnes at 2.4. It's under a 12,000 acre property that we purchased recently. The mineralisation remains open. We're looking south there from that drone photo. There's a bit of a hill there, so we haven't been able to test the up-dip potential, but certainly in some of our drill holes we see chalcocite and native copper. So we haven't been really able to test the main lens of that's been the target of our resource drilling in an up-dip position because of the hillside. At some point we will do that, but we've been chasing the bigger picture there. The bigger picture is this, so you can see that growth fault, the Warara fault, and then the transform fault cutting across John Owen. And where they coalesce is where essentially we're seeing some of the better mineralisation show up. We've been very focused on the main zone, which was a gravity anomaly that essentially took us there. We believe it's being caused by chloride alteration, iron rich obviously. But what you can see in that image is geochem surface sampling for copper, and we haven't tested some quite significant strike extent of this, and our structural geologist tells us that's where we need to head next to really test the strike extent of this system. That's a long section. There's a large buried magnetic anomaly. They're common features in the Cobar Basin associated with mineralised systems, usually pyrrhotite or magnetite. Again, we've just sort of touched the top of this magnetic anomaly, and it seems to be associated with the mineralisation that we're seeing, and we see good potential, as I said, to expand that. The immediate growth opportunity is essentially highlighted by that balloon. All these mineral intercepts that pop up there are within that balloon but not included in the existing mineral resource estimate, and we believe that'll constitute an upgrade to that resource, a readily achievable one. We also see some really broad intercepts, 205 metres at 1.4% copper was in this drill hole just here, and that does make us wonder about the potential for a large-scale opportunity at Wirlong. Mallee Bull, we own the land there as well, 20,000 acres. It's a classic Cobar style system, returned some beautiful drill results, assay results just after Christmas. In the last couple of weeks we've got them. So 58 metres at 5% copper, 37 at, I think there was one there, 37 at about 3.7. So we've had some terrific results from this deposit, but it's a chute-like system and it remains open along strike and down plunge. We did some magnetic inversion modelling going back a number of years ago when we first discovered Mallee Bull, and there is a large magnetic anomaly that's sitting under the axial plane of the antiform that Mallee Bull sits on a fold hinge of, and we really don't know what's causing it. It's also got a coincident conductors down there. It's deep, but it offers obviously a very large scale opportunity. I'll race through our zinc and polymetallic deposits, but look, they're very good deposits, both of them. Mayday, we've only scratched the surface. It's an outcropping gold system, but it's a VMS, so polymetallic. But Southern Nights is a large-scale VMS system. So we've got just about 5 million tonnes there at around 7% combined lead-zinc, or zinc-lead I should say, and the zinc price is obviously very, very strong, and we do like where it's headed, but this essentially back-ends any development scenario as we progress to it. That's what it looks like in long section, and it's open in all directions, and we think there's also possibilities of structural offsets. I see a large circular feature, apart from the one I just put on there, but we think that there's a lot of untapped potential there. Mayday, I'll race through because I'm running out of time. So regional potential, look, this is something, on our ground, Trove, which is a treasure trove. I don't know if many of you have used it, but if you've got old prospects, I thoroughly recommend going back and Googling Trove and seeing what happened back in the day, because in 1900, March 1900, a journo for the Sydney Morning Herald went and walked from Cobar down to Mount Hope and onto Hillston or Condobolin, and he wrote a series of papers about his experiences, and most of this is on our ground, and it's entertaining and enlightening reading. A 6-year drought was underway, and it was 110 degrees without a blade of grass, and he writes very well. But you can see some of our regional prospects where essentially we haven't got to those yet. So there's massive upside to our tenement holding beyond our outstanding copper deposits. Thank you very much. Please come by the booth if you've got any questions. We look forward to talking to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob.